All right, welcome everybody. Episode 10 of the Loose Lugnuts podcast. I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Mystery Zachary Brandevold and Aaron Simmons, aka Simoleons, who is only here so he doesn't get fined, but we're glad to have him nonetheless.
As a college kid, I'm trying to hold on to every penny.
All right, how are you fine fellas doing this evening? Let's start with you, Zach. What is going on in the world of Zach tonight?
Yeah, so we're I got a all-star race to attend to tonight for one of the racing leagues that I'm in, and then I just got done finishing 3 classes worth of assignments, but I'm doing pretty good so far today. So I'm glad to be here and happy to get this episode 10 started.
All right, yeah, and because both Aaron and Zach have some commitments in their racing leagues tonight, and I'm an old man and need to go to bed early anyway, we are going to start this. We started an hour early, and we are going to cut out the fan interaction segment this week, but we will be bringing it back. But we do appreciate the fans and all the great comments they give and the discussions that they spur. But let's get to Aaron. Aaron, how are you this evening?
Doing very well. I got some very good news today that I was very thankful to hear. A little more private matter, but still, I'm glad to always get good news via whatever method. And so I'm really looking forward to getting down and dirty and talk about some NASCAR this weekend.
Tom, you're muted.
Tom, I believe you're muted.
Oh, sorry about that. Always one of our favorite topics, talking NASCAR. We got all kinds of races to review. We got all 3 major NASCAR series. We have also got IndyCar and our resident IndyCar expert in Zach. But we are going to kick it off with the truck race review. So, Aaron, take it away, and let's hope your power holds out better than the power at the racetrack did.
Hopefully. But trucks going back to Gateway this weekend. But of course, it was the kind of playoff contenders who seemed to kind of struggle for the first race of the truck playoffs. First off, we saw the 18 car with some mechanical problems. He was working to, I believe, a 36th place finish. I believe 36th place finish. But anyway, but it was Sheldon Creed who dominated stage 1 after a little bit of a wacky start, but seemed to be going quite along until we get to stage 2, and then that's when all hell broke loose. We've seen fire cancel out a track, we've seen rain cancel out a track, especially this year. But then this year the power went out. NASCAR apparently didn't pay their electric bill this week, and so the power went out at Gateway International, knocking out the race for about 45 minutes to about an hour. Until they were lucky enough to get the lights back on, they finally paid their electric bill, and so trucks went out to complete stage 2, which Sheldon Creed had won again, sweeping both stage 1 and 2. But then for stage 3, it was just a survival of the most fortunate. Here we saw huge wrecks involving several playoff contenders such as the 38, the 4, the 16. Both of those were looking to be in the fight, after round 1, but it looks like they're going to be on the outside looking in. And then we saw some more issues for the 4 car, his brakes just suddenly going out on him. And so one of the favorites for the championship hunt this year, already starting from the back. But in the end, it would be Sheldon Creed in the 2 truck, basically sweeping the race, dominating the race, and getting his first win of the playoffs. And right now taking the title of favorite to watch.
Yeah, that truck race, it had a little bit of everything, and it was like if you were a playoff contender, it was not your night. I mean, the trucks only have 10 guys in the playoffs, and I think 5 or 6 of them wound up with lots of trouble. I think Nemechek took out a bunch of them when he had his issue and had to check up, and then everybody behind him. So it was definitely a crazy race. They had I think a 48-minute red flag. So a little bit of everything in the truck race. Zach, you got anything to add to the craziness of the truck race?
Yeah, I didn't get to catch any of it, unfortunately, but I did hear that Ryan Truex was involved in a nasty incident. I don't know what, but I heard there was a lot of wrecks that night, and definitely the weird with the power outage for sure.
Absolutely. And from what I've heard, there's an accident outside of the track that caused a power outage.
Wow.
But I don't know. Maybe NASCAR just didn't pay the electric bill and they sent someone to crash into the power pole. Who knows?
Could be. All right, Aaron, we're going to stick with you. Take us through the Xfinity race.
Alrighty. So from the less than a mile size Darlington wannabe track, we go to the 2-mile D-shaped oval of Michigan. There we see a lot more kind of passing action as really looked like it was Austin Cindric's race to lose until he did lose it, getting involved in a race incident, basically knocking him out of the race. From then on, it looked like it was going to be Allmendinger or Allgaier looking to win the race. But then there was just crashes after crashes, and knocking out again those who wanted to get into the Xfinity playoffs, which haven't started quite yet. They're going to start like the Cup Series after Daytona. But unfortunately, most of those drivers are going to end up with pretty bad finishes this week. But in the end, AJ Allmendinger, continuing his hot streak, wins at Michigan, not on a road course, but a 2-mile D-shaped oval, and securing his 3rd win of the season, making him one of the guys to really keep an eye out for when the playoffs start.
Absolutely. I think he was a playoff or a championship contender. Last season when he announced he was going to be doing this full time, I think everybody started thinking he was going to be a championship contender. And here he is heating up at the right time. So, yeah, 100%. Great to see him grab another win. Very popular driver. Always enjoy seeing him win. He's one of my favorites.
I will say that Josh Berry, he was making his way through the field pretty systematically throughout the day. And he had never been at Michigan before, and he learned on the spot and was one of the first drivers to go up on that resin that they laid down. And he was making some passes, making some moves. Definitely, he got the lead late into the race and then kind of got shuffled back due to strategy. But definitely interesting to see Josh Berry mix it up in a track that he's never raced before.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Josh Berry during that race, he made some moves that I think were going to work, but he somehow found a way to make it work at a track he's never been to, like Zach alluded to, and really kind of showing the fans and the viewers and the haters alike why Junior signed him, because he showed a lot of talent and a lot of promise for a track he's never been to before. And I thought he was going to win that race for sure until last caution came out. Me too.
And I think it's hard for us to appreciate a guy like Josh Berry, who he made a name for himself and earned his ride racing at places the size of Martinsville. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's the bread and butter of where he came up in the super late models. And then to go to a track that is 4 times the size of Martinsville and run well. I mean, he's really proven that he has got talent, and glad to see he also got signed to a full-time ride with Junior Motorsports next year. So bright days ahead for him. His talent is carrying him, so good to see.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I just think he's going to be a championship contender next year.
100%. I think also just from this race. I mean, we can do overreactions, but I don't think this was an overreaction. He methodically worked his way, like we said, throughout the race, and I think it was important for him to get that good quality race in at Michigan.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. Junior Motorsports 5 Xfinity championships, I think. If I'm not mistaken, 5.
I don't know the exact number on that.
I don't know the exact number as well.
Dale Jr. knows how to put a competitive team together, and he's got a great eye for talent. So it's almost like if Junior dubs you worthy of driving his car, it almost gives you instant credibility because he's got such a strong track record of identifying talent.
And he finds the sponsors to put these people, underfunded people in these cars as well. I will also say, and that's probably one of the weaker cars in the Junior Motorsports stable this season, just based off of finishes. And this goes to show how talented of a driver Berry is if he's able to compete in that one car, which is a completely different team than the normal 8 car. And I don't know if they had the same crew chief or if it was the one he worked with the eights tenure, but definitely interesting to see and note.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things I love about this podcast. You can go out and you can watch the race and listen to what the commentators say. You can click on a YouTube video of the highlight reel, but you're not going to have a lot of people telling you about what Josh Berry's accomplished. And I think we do. One of the things I really like about the show is we find the things that you don't get in other podcasts and that people have overlooked and aren't talking about, and we kind of bring them out and talk about them here. I love that we kind of do something different than just the traditional highlights.
Yeah.
But
yeah, absolutely. I mean, anyone can go out and watch a race and then look at the major news stories and talk about them. But we kind of really like dig down and kind of find the little gems, the little gems underneath the dirt, and really kind of say, hey, this guy might do well, and then hopefully we're right. So.
Hopefully. Okay, so let's go on to the Cup race, and this is the first time I get a chance to do a review of a Cup race. And before we get into the Cup race, speaking of these little gems of things that you don't get to notice everywhere else, I got 2 video clips I want to show. Now, one of the big stories this year has been the struggles of Stewart-Haas Racing, and in particular Kevin Harvick. And people have been critical of everything from the cars to has Father Time caught up with him. But I want to show you 2 clips here, okay? This is the difference of what these guys are dealing with between a good handling race car and a poor handling race car. The first clip, this is Austin Dillon when he was up running in the top 3. Now, in this clip, he has got, I think, almost 30 laps more on his tires than in the Kevin Harvick clip I'm going to show you. But watch this clip and pay particular attention to the hands. Watch the hands, if I can get it up here. Watch the hands
the Chevrolet and the success
of Austin Dillon.
Been having. He said we felt some of that too as a Chevrolet team. Maybe not as good as what they've done.
He's going to the corner now.
Here today, and with 4 fresh tires and a chassis adjustment and a good choice on where to restart that last time, Marty, the 3 has gone forward.
And Dave, look how it changed the playoff.
Look how smooth those hands were. Okay, now for anybody who thinks that it is Kevin Harvick and it's just he's lost his talent and he's not the driver he was, watch this clip. Watch Harvick's hands going through the corner.
Turn the wheel off the wall. You can see him wiggle the wheel back and forth. When he's turning right, jerking the steering wheel, that's the right rear slipping. He's just catching the car every time, all the way from.
Look at how busy those hands are trying to keep that car under control. Now he drove that to a 14th place finish. But yeah, that's the difference between, you can look at the Austin Dillon car and you can say, man, that doesn't look so hard. I could do that. Well, that's a top 3 car, and that's a car charging to the front. Look at the Kevin Harvick car and look how difficult that looks to drive. So that's a little thing that I thought really struck me when I got a chance to nab those 2 videos and show the difference in the hands. And that's what it's like driving a well-handling car versus a poor-handling car. And that was a 14th place car. Imagine what a 30th place car is like to drive.
Well, it might be a little bit smoother, but it might be slower on horsepower.
True. True. But anybody who's saying Harvick it's Father Time has caught up with him, I look at that video and say, you know what? You could put the best driver in the world behind the wheel of that car, and they're going to struggle. That thing was just a handful to keep under control.
100%. I completely agree. Even you could tell because, Austin Dillon was able to run in that resin and keep it right on that level. A lot of the times, if you had a little bit poor controlling car, you'd have to go down to the apron and come back up, which really isn't the preferred line. Some cars were set up that way. You saw Matt DiBenedetto do that a couple times, and he's actually quick. But obviously, Kevin Harvick is doing everything he can to try and get good finishes. And you see the disparity in the rest of the SHR team, and it really shows how talented Harvick still is.
Yeah. Let's get into the actual race review, and let's talk about what happened in Michigan. There are 2 or 3 themes to the race here. One is everybody expected that the Hendrick cars to run up front all day as they have, and they basically did. But I think we saw Ryan Blaney kind of put on a clinic of this is how you steal a race from a team that is dominant. He worked on the car all day. They put it in a great position. He actually got help from 2 non-teammates. He got help from 2 Joe Gibbs guys on the final restart. He got a huge push from Kyle Busch, which got him in the lead. And he also got help from Denny Hamlin, who pushed William Byron so hard that he almost wrecked him, and that helped Blaney get the lead as well. The other theme is aggressive driving. Guys that were on that playoff bubble were trying to win their way in, and I'm talking specifically about Austin Dillon and about Matt DiBenedetto. They had the aggressiveness dial. It was pegged. It was on 10 all day long. They knew they were driving for their playoff lives, and they drove like it. They probably didn't win any friends, either one of them, but I would bet that of the 40 or so drivers that were in the field, every one of them would have driven the exact same way if they were in that position. And I'm glad to see that they were able to drive aggressively because they had good equipment. They had good cars. If Matt DiBenedetto or Austin Dillon drives that aggressively and they're in 25th place, nobody notices and nobody cares. But they were up front. And I was so impressed with how they could both manage the aggressiveness. They would move people. They would be aggressive. They would pull slide jobs. They didn't wreck anybody, either one of them. So I was super impressed with both of them. But coming down to the end, it was Ryan Blaney with that great restart, and then he played the air game superbly. The other theme of this race was you get out front, and then you play the air game, and I think that's what he called it in the post-race interviews. You take the air or the line away from the guy behind you to either block the run or use that run to push you ahead like it's a restrictor plate track. For about 10 laps, he played that superbly. This is the first time that Ryan Blaney has actually got 2 wins in a season. And to me, this was a big moment for him. This is a moment where I think he crossed a threshold because he won without having the best car. And when you become the level of driver that you can win without having the best car, that's when you've really arrived. So I think we're going to see Ryan Blaney in victory lane again this year. I don't know if he'll have the best car when he does it, but I think he'll find a way to grab one more checkered flag today, or not today, but this season. And I really think he is coming into his prime as a driver, which is great to see because he's one of my favorites. But that is the story I've got from the Cup race. Any reactions or additional comments before we let Zach tell us about IndyCar?
Go ahead, Aaron. No,
not for me. Not right now.
Yeah, I thought the Cup race was really interesting, and there were you could definitely see the aggression levels, and like you said, Austin Dillon and Matt DiBenedetto, very, very pronounced as compared to some of the other drivers of the that were racing in the Cup race at Michigan. It was probably some of the best aggression out of both of those drivers that I've seen all season.
And I got to tell you, and I don't mean to jump ahead. I feel like we could spend the whole whole show talking about that Cup race.
Yeah.
But if they had the aggressiveness dialed up to 10 this week, it's going to be 12 or 15 next week.
And that's when you start getting into mistakes and people making mistakes, especially at a plate track.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting. But we could talk about that later. Let's move on.
All right, Zach, tell us about IndyCar.
Yeah, so it was a very interesting race. We were at Gateway, so they did essentially what was a double header for both the trucks and IndyCar. This was a lot like the truck race in a way. A lot of people showed over aggression. There were a bunch of wrecks, cautions, bred cautions throughout the entire night. And that actually took out 2 of the championship contenders, our leader, Alex Palou, and Scott Dixon, who was only, I believe, 30 points back from the lead. So now coming out of the race, you eliminate those 2. Joseph Newgarden won, who has a really good track record. I think he has 3 wins in the past since 2017 at Gateway. He had a fast car all night. He led pretty much over, I think, half the race, if not more. And he is now firmly in the championship hunt, I think around 30 points back, if I'm not mistaken. And at one point, he was over 100. And so he's won 2 races and finished well. And both of those to claw his way back in the championship. And we actually have a new points leader. It was our second place finisher at Gateway, Pato Award. He ran a smart race all night, showed aggression when he had to. And ultimately, I think he had the car to win, but he knew that it was better for him to finish the race rather than make an aggressive move and potentially take himself out. So he ends up taking over the championship lead by over 10 points to Alex Palou. And so now we have a real battle on our hands for the last 3 races in Portland, Monterey, and Long Beach for the NTT Data IndyCar Series Championship. So lots of great news and battles throughout the entire race. And, definitely the aggression was shown throughout the race as well. And you could definitely tell things are heating up for the playoffs, or not the playoffs, but the championship final couple races.
All right. So again, we're seeing a lot of this where we've seen more like IndyCar running the same venue or same city as NASCAR, and I think it's great if you're a race fan. I think it's great if you're a race fan.
Actually, Connor Daly, who's a driver, he drove for Carlin for the Oval, Carlin Racing. They compete in a bunch of different series over the world, and he actually spotted for Ryan Truex in the Truck Series at Gateway for Nice Motorsports. For the truck race. So I thought that was pretty cool, with a little bit of more crossover with some of the different series.
Okay, one more thing that I forgot to show is I want to, if I can find it here where I had it at, I want to look at Ryan Blaney's wins. Okay, these are his wins and the margin of victory. Now, you can understand the Talladega wins being by, less than 1/10 of a second. But you look at Pocono by, basically 1/10 of a second, Charlotte by under a second, and Michigan by under 1/10 of a second. I'm telling you what, if there's ever a guy who personified an inch is as good as a mile, it's Ryan Blaney. I mean, these have all been exciting races to watch coming down right to the very end. The only one that wasn't real close was Atlanta. But I'm telling you what, we might have to revive the old Jimmy Spencer nickname, Mr. Excitement, for Mr. Blaney, the way he pulls off these close wins.
Now, Tom, I would actually want to bring back an old favorite that everyone plays on Kevin Harvick.
The closer.
The closer.
I was going to say that. How'd you take that out of my mouth?
hey, great minds think alike. Let's go with that.
Absolutely. Great minds think alike.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Zach, you want to take us through the news? We got lots of news stories to talk about this week.
Yeah, we got. Let's get ready for the news. We got a bunch on the docket. There was. It seems like as the year is winding down, there's going to be more and more news for next season. And it looks like really exciting news as well. So the first one that we have to talk about is NASCAR is looking for new tracks for the Cup Series potentially as early as next season, with Gateway and or a race inside of LA's football Coliseum Stadium. Why do you think they are continuing to add new racetracks to the schedule? And what do you think, or what tracks do you think they'll take away if they do add these? Does anybody have anything to add to this?
I think NASCAR is just trying to, it seems like there's a lot of hype whenever there is something new and everybody wants to see it. Even if you don't like it or agree with it, you watch it because it's new. I think a lot of people, there were as many people that thought Bristol Dirt was a great idea as there were that hated it, but everybody watched it. I think that's kind of what they're going for, is to keep where there's always something fresh, always something new, always something exciting. I don't want to say remain relevant. That's not the right phrase, but I think it's to maintain a level of hype and excitement around the sport. But I think you got some things to say, Aaron, but then I got some comments on what tracks I think they might want to get rid of and add.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Tom, I think you took my thought out of my head this time.
That's why I jumped on it first. I knew you were going to say that.
Damn it! But yeah, I just think NASCAR is just trying to spice things up to try and kind of like close in on some new markets, like they did back when they added like Texas to the mix, and when they added almost of these new tracks like back in the late 80s and 90s, and then they kind of stopped for a little while because those markets were popular and could bring in a lot of fans and all the attractions, and then it just stopped. And so now I think what they're trying to do is, since the market is starting to get stale, no one's really coming out to the venues anymore, they want to try and just spice it up by adding some of these new tracks. And no one wants to go to see those the cookie cutter tracks anymore. And so they're trying to expand to new markets and find these new wacky tracks somewhere. And so I really think Gateway is going to be a great addition to the schedule because it's kind of a Darlington kind of laid out track with road course mentality, but in a short track, which is an odd combination.
It's like if Darlington and New Hampshire, if you combine Darlington and New Hampshire, it's kind of what you get.
Exactly.
Yeah. Definitely has some New Hampshire vibes,
but a very fun track. But,
Zach, what do you have to say?
Well, I was just going to say that the LA Coliseum, they mapped it out. Somebody mapped it out online, drew like points on Google Maps or whatever. The inside of the track would be 0.273 miles, which is kind of like Slinger Speedway. And I don't really think we have a track like it on the NASCAR schedule at all either. So if they do one of the, I think it's really far-fetched for them to have a race at the Coliseum, especially there's not really a lot of infrastructure. They'd have to build out a track, temporary track at that, and figure that out. I don't know. That seems like a fantasy to me, but it would be cool if they added it. I really do. I really think that.
Okay, hang on. Before we do this, NASCAR has done this sort of thing before, I think 10 years ago. Do you remember a little track called Bowman Gray? It's literally a football stadium that they used to race cars around. And they did this, and I believe they did this for a K&M race a few years ago, in 2012, I think. And it was a smash hit, from what I've heard. I mean, there's literally zero banking. There's literally nothing. It's flat all the way around the track. And from what I heard, they packed that football stadium out. It was such a smash hit. And according to my calculations, it is 0.248 miles. So basically a quarter of a mile.
That's a bull ring. Wow.
That is a bull ring, and it was a lot of fun to watch. And so I figure if they're going to do that, might as well just go back to Bowman Gray. Might as well just do that.
Go back to somewhere where they actually have the infrastructure, not necessarily building out a temporary track.
Yeah.
I always liked Iowa. Okay. Now, I don't know how suitable that venue is for Cup. I liked Iowa. I've always said get rid of one of the Pocono dates. So if you're talking about who to get rid of, Pocono, out of here. You get rid of both of them for all I care. I question, though, is there a place in the Northwest, the Oregon, Washington, Idaho area? I don't know the racing in that region, but that's an area that NASCAR's never really penetrated. I think the only driver that I remember coming from that area is Greg Biffle, but that could be a fresh market for NASCAR. But again, I don't know the tracks.
Is Casey Kane out of there?
Is Casey Kane from the? Maybe
I believe
he is.
So.
Maybe So there's two, but that's a geographic area they really haven't penetrated very well. If there's a facility there, that might be a good one.
Yes.
And I'm all for saying goodbye to at least one of the Pocono dates.
He's from Enumclaw, Washington State. Born.
I mean, for me, I'll say just get rid of Texas. To be honest, I mean they've killed that track. It used to be a fun track, about 7-8 years ago, and then they just absolutely killed it by taking away the banking. It's just not fun to watch anymore. So just Texas, get out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely made it a little bit more of a one lane track for sure. I would like to see them, like you said, Tom, go into different states that they're currently not racing in and potentially get it. But NASCAR's already losing their market share in their home states that they consider one of their strongest fan bases. Who knows?
All right, Zach, take us into the next news story.
So we're probably going to go through these a little bit quickly. American-born racing team Andretti Autosports is pursuing an F1 team takeover when the right opportunity bears itself. What do you think? What team do you think would be ripe for a takeover? Will this be bad for Formula, or will this be good or bad for Formula One? And what drivers do you think they would pursue? Does anybody have anything on this? I know I do. I don't know if you guys do. I know you guys don't watch F1.
Not really.
I'll keep it short and sweet because I got to be honest, I can barely spell F1. But I will say, anytime you can add the Andretti name or Andretti family to your series, it's got to be a positive addition. But Zach, I'll let you comment on that one. That's way beyond my area of expertise. All I know is I can barely spell F1, and it's really expensive.
Yeah, so they this is a partnership with originally their F1 Adventure really partnership with Fernando Alonso with McLaren when they were with Honda, and that's when Andretti I think really got into it. They also have partnered with McLaren and also Zach Brown, which is their team principal in F1, Formula One, I should say, and several other auto sports categories. They actually run a Formula E team. So that's the all electric companion series with Formula One run by the FIA. So this isn't completely outlandish. Andretti Autosports is, they're going to run Honda. So who knows? They run Honda in America. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to run Honda in Formula One if they do decide to join. I mean, because of the Concord agreement, $200 million is the buy-in right now if you wanted to create a brand new team. So that's a lot of money and a lot of infrastructure. That's just the buy-in, and that goes to the other teams. So that means you also have to create a car and all of that. It's going to be pretty expensive if they want to outright buy it, and I think that's why they're going the route of buying an existing team. I think Williams, who's Mercedes-based, is a good option for them because they would have ties to McLaren with their Mercedes as well. They could potentially become a junior team, get funding from them. But I really think that another American team, especially, one with the Andretti name, it would be very successful if they do find a partnership or an outright buy available in Formula One. It's a very exclusive series, so it's going to be hard, but it's definitely something to keep an eye out for the future, because this would be very good for F1. And Andretti Autosports, they would be in pretty much every single major series besides, I believe, IMSA, if I'm not mistaken. But definitely good. And I think the drivers is going to depend on the money. I think they might eventually go to a American driver, but I think it's also going to depend on who brings the most money, because that is essentially, unfortunately, what F1 is about right now. Hopefully they're going to try and get away from that eventually and maybe hire an American-born driver. So who knows?
Well, for $200 million, I think we should start one. As a matter of fact, for that price, I think we should start two.
Start a GoFundMe.
Yeah, might as well.
Yeah,
I think you guys can support us, our fans. All right, moving on to the next one. Jesse, I'm going to butcher this last name.
Iwuji.
Okay. Okay. Partners with NFL Hall of Famer Emmitt Smith to form a full-time Xfinity Series team for 2022. It's going to be called Jesse Iwuji Motorsports. Is this good for NASCAR? We've seen other sports stars fail, and will it be different? And do you think they will contend for wins in 2022? Does anybody have anything on this? Aaron, do you want to start?
Yeah, I'll start. I mean, it's always good to bring in new partners to the sport. Whether they work out or not, we don't know. But hey, at least they tried. And plus, it does bring a new opportunity for a driver who may not have any other place to go. At least they get a shot for a new team, kind of see what happens, and at least they might be able to pull off some sort of miracle wins and get their career back on track, or maybe even just start. But whether they're going to be competitive in 2022, I don't think so. But I do think it's interesting that they're going for Xfinity and not the Cup Series, which is very fascinating to me, but very great for that series, which really needs some sort of a spark, I would say. But overall, I think it's a good thing.
Tom?
Yeah, I think we got to sit back and appreciate kind of where we are with the sport of NASCAR right now. And right now, it is cool to be a NASCAR owner. Okay, we've got Michael Jordan, we've got Pit Bull, now we've got Emmett Smith. I think it is great that now, among a celebrity crowd, NASCAR is considered cool. That you've got these big name celebrities from other sports that are wanting to invest in NASCAR. So I think it's great. I have no idea whether they'll be successful or not. If you had told me a few years ago that Pit Bull was going to be a more successful owner than Denny Hamlin, I would have told you were crazy, but that's the way it's worked out so far. So I don't know, but I welcome Emmett Smith. And, I think it is great that, like I said, it's cool to be a NASCAR owner now, so I'm all for it.
Yeah, I think this is going to be interesting. I hope it's going to be different than other sports stars that have owned teams before. I think Jesse is a decent driver. I think he really hasn't had the equipment to kind of show his talent, and I think this would be a good showcase. Obviously, I don't know if they're going to contend immediately in 2022. I doubt it. I think maybe he sticks with his Toyota partnership potentially. So I don't know for sure. But it's definitely going to be interesting to see. And I think this is good for NASCAR. I think any good news as far as people wanting to be owners is good for NASCAR, no matter who it is, especially, well, I'm not going to say no matter who it is, but especially if it's a NFL Hall of Famer, Emmett Smith, for sure.
Okay, so let's talk a minute about who have been the celebrities that have been NASCAR owners, because I am sitting here and I'm thinking of Michael Jordan, which it's too early to say it's not a success, but it certainly hasn't been a success yet. Pit Bull, which probably exceeded expectations. Years ago, we had Paul Newman in Newman Haas Racing, which I don't know how well you'd gauge their success in the fact that it eventually became Stewart Haas Racing, and they were very successful. You had Brad Dougherty of Dougherty JTG Racing, but I thought he was a minority owner, but they've certainly not been successful. But so I think you're right. I don't think we've had a lot, but I don't think that it's got a great track record of success either.
Well, you also have Brett Favre. He started Xfinity series season, or the Xfinity team back in the day. I know there's definitely a lot more.
We're forgetting, and it's easy to forget because it's the biggest failure of ownership of all time, is obviously Joe Gibbs Racing.
Yeah, I mean, but wait, who?
What did they ever do?
Who?
No. Yeah, well, I'm just thinking as far as there have been teams, especially in the lower series, that I believe who started a truck series team. There's a truck series team that an NFL player started, Chad Johnson, maybe, or Randy Moss. Thank you. Nobody said that. Randy Moss started a truck series team and only lasted for a couple seasons. I think it lasted two seasons or something like that, and then Kyle Busch took it over. We've seen other ones. I mean, I hope this is a long-term partnership. And from reading the article, it seems like it will be, but it's definitely something interesting to look at, especially, there are some history of at least lower series of those teams kind of failing and those owners backing out. So obviously you do have some success stories, especially in the Cup Series, especially this season as well. But you always got to be wary a little bit, I think, when you're dealing with a lot of money. Okay, going on to the next one. Eric Jones gets another opportunity to run the iconic 43 car for Richard Petty Motorsports in 2022. Does Eric deserve this ride? Do you see him doing any better considering next year's regulation changes? And does this change anything for his silly season? Tom, let's start with you.
I don't think it changes much, and I think that given the seats that are available and the drivers that are available, this is probably about where Eric Jones belongs. I don't have anything against Eric Jones personally, but in the time he was at Gibbs Racing, I think his three Gibbs teammates racked up something like 34 wins, and over the same time period, he got 3. So he just didn't produce. I think this is probably as good as either side can do. I don't think there's a better ride out there for him, and I don't think there's a better driver available for Richard Petty, excluding the fact that probably I don't think Kurt Busch is going to be available, and I think Matt D is going to ride someplace. I just think it's a good fit right now. I think it's a good fit for both sides right now.
Aaron, what do you say?
I mean, me personally, I would at least try for Matty D or at least try for Kurt Busch to kind of see what offer he has on the table. And if not, then you always have Eric. You always have Eric Jones on the back burner ready to go. But I really do think Eric Jones did well. I mean, he didn't overperform, but didn't really underperform either. He kind of stayed kind of about where the equipment was anyway. A good, safe, reliable driver. And so I would say that's a decent thing for Rich Petty right now until they get better equipment.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know where the standings. It seems by just the eye test, it looks like Eric Jones is performing a little bit better than Bubba Wallace was last season. Definitely, they're finding ways to run up front, even if it's off strategy. But I will say that I think Eric has done a really good job this season overall. He's just outside the top 20, I believe, fighting for the top 20 in points, which is good. And I do think that considering the regulation changes for next season, I think it will. I think that car will be a little bit more competitive, especially with their RCR alliance. And I really don't think this changes for anything for the silly season. I really don't think they were looking at other drivers, potentially maybe to get their charter back from Rick Ware Racing, but I don't know where that is. And maybe they open up a second car again, considering the regulation changes. Maybe they put a driver like Matt DiBenedetto or Ryan Preece or somebody, but I really think that'll spread their resources a little bit thin. So I wouldn't look into that too much. Like I said, I don't think this really changes anything as far as silly season goes, unfortunately. But it is a good pairing. I think it worked out. All right, moving on. International Sports Car Team Carlin looks to expand to a 2-car team for next season in IndyCar if it can, quote, find the right driver. With Chilton, their current driver, also evaluating his future with the team, saying he will look at other options if a quality driver to pair with him is not found. What does this mean for Carlin if they can secure a solid driver for the second seat? And will Chilton find success elsewhere? If so, what are the open options for him? Does anybody have anything about this? I know I do. I know you guys don't watch IndyCar that much, but
nope.
Take it away, Zach.
I'll be quick because I know we're running a little bit low on time. Carlin is an international sports car team. They compete in F2, F3. They create tubs for some of the carbon fiber tubs for some of the series as well. So they're into manufacturing as well. They started a IndyCar team several seasons ago, and really, I think overall they've underperformed. It would be surprising to me seeing that they would actually start a second seat. I know they're looking for one, but I don't think they would necessarily have the funding to do it if they can't find if their driver currently is not actually seeing good results. I doubt they would be able to secure funding for another seat. Chilton, I think he stays there regardless, but I think if there are options open to him, he might as well evaluate to them, because I don't think he has a car capable to do what he needs to do. I mean, we've seen slight success when Connor Daly drives in the oval races in Chilton's car. He's actually performed better than Chilton in the races that he has raced in for the Carlin team. So I don't know if necessarily Chilton will find another seat, but I think that's the best available option to him right now. All right, and I think that's it for the motorsports news this week. We had a lot.
Yeah, we did. All right.
Yeah, we did. A lot of news this week.
So let's get into who's hot and who is not. Aaron, let's go with you as far as who is hot and who is not.
All right, so for my who's hot this week, I got to go with the man, the myth, the legend. That is the Dinger, AJ Allmendinger. I mean, really from winning the Indy 500, Indy Brickyard 200, is what I'm trying to say here, and then going on and winning at Michigan. You can't say that he's one of the hottest drivers right now, especially in Xfinity and in Cup, for just going out there and just beating some of the best, not only road course but also on a a big speedway such as Michigan. So I'm going Dinger. And then who's not? Richard Childress right now. I would not want to be in his shoes. Dillon, who looked like he'd be in contention for the win, gets taken out by Brad, which we'll talk about later. And then Tyler Reddick, who had just a subpar performance at Michigan, really needing to just survive at Daytona in order to get into the playoffs. If not, he could face elimination. And so right now, Rich Childress, I bet he's sweating bullets. And so right now that's my who's hot and who's not for the week.
All right, Zach, who you got for who's hot and who's not?
Yeah, so I'm going to go with Wood Brothers Racing for who's hot. I'm not trying to be biased or anything, but they have been on a hot streak since the beginning of July. They have an average finish of 8.6 with their worst finish coming in at 11th. They have 3 top 10s and 2 top 5s in that. 4 top 10s, 2 11th place finishes, and 2 top 5s. And I think if you even add in a few races after that, if I can find it, he still is top 10 as far as finishing order in the Cup Series since, I want to say, August, end of August. But, it's a good turnaround. I think the crew chief change really did help out. You really can see it, especially at the average finish. They're also, in the standings where they are in the race where they need to be, top 10s, competing for wins sometimes. I mean, we saw, even in the road courses, the past couple road courses that we've had, he's been able to compete for wins, not necessarily on the long runs, but definitely on the short runs for sure. And I think that helped him out in Michigan. He was a little bit, they were a little bit back towards the back of the pack, and they ended up finishing almost top 5. But yeah, so, and for who's not, I would say probably Austin Dillon. He's had a bad couple races, and obviously this wreck at Michigan didn't help him at all as far as getting into the playoffs. I think he had a strong chance at winning the race for sure. And now he's sitting pretty far back. I think he got helped a little bit by Tyler Reddick not finishing on the lead lap last night. So that's who's hot and who's not.
Okay. All right. For who's hot, I am going to go with Ryan Blaney, and I am totally biased because he is one of my favorite drivers. He's probably my favorite Cup driver. Big win to me. First time he's got 2 wins in a season. He's been primarily known as a guy who does well at plate tracks, and he was able to do well at a big 2-mile oval. He was able to win without having the best car, which I think is huge. I think that speaks volumes about the talent of a guy if he can win when he doesn't have the best car. And I am biased because I'm a huge Ryan Blaney fan. So I am going with Ryan Blaney for who is hot. Now, Zach, yes. I am arguing you. I'm going completely the opposite direction. I am saying Wood Brothers management for who is not. Okay. The Wood Brothers have completely blown it from a management perspective. Okay. They fired the crew chief, brought in a new crew chief, and decided they were going to kick out Matt DiBenedetto. Well, guess what? Matt DiBenedetto is not your problem. Your crew chief was your problem. All those stats you said, they were all post-crew chief change, okay? So now what have they done? They have solved one problem and created another. They have let one of the best drivers on the circuit go into free agency, and they're bringing in an unknown rookie when they have finally got the ship righted. They have compounded this by making 2 bad decisions. They fired the crew chief too late, and they didn't give Matt a chance to show what he could do when he had good equipment under him. They have been by far the best satellite team out there, and they have made 2 bad decisions, firing the crew chief too late, then letting Matt D go. I am really upset with their decision making.
I agree.
So there, that's my rant.
I appreciate that. Somebody else sees it besides me. Let's go ahead. It's all right. I know we're on a little bit of time crunch.
Aaron, you're up with green flag, red flag.
All right, gentlemen, we are under a time crunch. So we got to wrap it up here fairly quickly. And so we will get into it. Green flag, red flag. Question number 1: a 2-lap penalty is excessive for a fuel man assistance. We saw this during the Xfinity race when one of the drivers, the crewman, went underneath the car to look at something, and that was labeled as doing some adjustments on the car, and the driver got a 2-lap penalty. Is this excessive? Yes or no? Green flag or red flag?
Green flag, absolutely excessive. I don't know why you would impose that kind of a penalty. The only thing I can see, and I did not get a chance to watch the Xfinity race, if you're going under the car without a jack stand under it, it's a safety issue. If you're going to penalize somebody for a safety issue, there's nothing more important than safety. I can understand a severe penalty for a minor infraction if it is endangering a crew member. Other than that, no way I see it as appropriate. So I'm going green flag. It was excessive.
I agree. I think it was. I think this is a green flag. I think it was excessive. From what I saw, he was just looking underneath the car. I don't even think he was underneath it completely. So definitely something that I think was over excessive for sure.
All right, also go green flag. I mean, 2 laps is really excessive. It just kills your race if that happens late in the race when most things is going to happen anyway. So just no. It's too harsh. All right. So question number 2. Someone will win their way into the 2021 NASCAR playoffs at Daytona.
I'm going to say green flag. Yeah, I'm going to say green flag. I think there's too many road course aces that are not road course. Super speedway aces like Austin Dillon. Tyler Reddick is also in contention, as you saw last season. Matt DiBenedetto for sure. Eric Jones. I think Bubba Wallace for sure. There's a bunch of different people who can win at a super speedway. And I think, we can't take that for granted at all. I definitely think that there probably can be somebody who will win their way in. It might be somebody who's already in the playoffs right now, as far as maybe Harvick or Reddick, but they don't have wins yet. Or maybe even Hamlin, who don't have wins yet. But I do think that for sure we might see somebody outside the playoffs win currently.
I'm going green flag. This has been such a crazy season, 13 different winners. I blame it all on Michael McDowell by starting off by winning the Daytona 500 at something like a 3,000 to 1 odds or something. I don't know what it was. It was crazy. He set the tone. I think we started crazy. I think we finished the regular season crazy. I'm going green flag.
See, I'm going red flag. I think it's going to be someone who's already clinched a spot into in which case their win means absolutely nothing. But I really don't see a new driver winning at Daytona unless every single one of the drivers unless every single one of the 15 or so drivers it does already clinch wins. It won't mean anything. So I'm going red flag.
Playoff points. Wins are 5 playoff points. Don't say it doesn't mean nothing.
Yeah, but well, in the grand scheme of things, it may not mean too much.
Okay.
But all right, this is probably the most controversial one of the night. Number 3, Brad Keselowski is to blame for the end of Stage 2 wreck at Michigan that took out Austin Dillon. Green flag or red flag?
Go ahead, Tom. No, go ahead.
Green flag. You can see from the in-car cameras, he was coming down. Austin Dillon was already on the apron. When I saw the in-car camera, you can see Keselowski's car crossed over the white line and went down onto the apron too. That clinched it for me that it was his fault. I don't know what he was thinking. I don't know what he's doing. His reaction indicated he didn't mean to do it, but it was still his fault. Green flag.
Yeah, this was kind of a brain fade move by Brad Keselowski. Originally, when I watched it live, I thought that this was Austin's fault for turning up after the checkered. But even if that was the case, there's no reason for Brad Keselowski to be down there and racing for after the checker flag had already waved. He had already had the momentum. He already crossed the line. There was no reason to do that. And when I looked at the replay, you could definitely see where Brad Keselowski went on the apron. I think that he is definitely to blame, and this has just ruined Austin's race and a potential win into the playoffs for sure.
Yeah, I mean, absolute green flag for me. I don't know why the hell Brown was even down there that late to begin with. I mean, really, kind of 100 feet to the checker to the line is going to be Dillon's stage point anyway. So Brown should just checked up and just let him go. But total green flag for me. All right, last one for the night. Blaney grabs another win before the season is over and ends his season with a career best total of 3 wins.
I'm gonna say green flag. I think that he definitely can win. He has the speed this season in order to win another race. Will it be at a plate race? I think so. And I think it's gonna be hard for him to replicate. Maybe a road course as well. I do think it'll be a little bit harder to replicate, but we do have Penske cars that have won on Phoenix earlier in the season, Joey Logano, and some other intermediate tracks. So I do think that that's possible. But I think, he has the best shot. I think he does get win number 3 for the season in the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm saying green flag. I think he's coming into his prime as a driver. People forget last year, there was a lot of places we went to where he absolutely dominated stage 1 and 2 and just couldn't figure out how to either keep up with the track or communicate with the crew chief, whatever the issue was. He just didn't have the speed in stage 3. But I think he's matured. I think he's a little better driver. And I think he's just putting it all together this year. So I'm saying absolutely green flag.
Oh yeah, definitely green flag. I mean, Blaney has shown that he can start to mature in his time in that seat, and that car's starting to get stronger and stronger, and he's going to win some races before the season's out. All right, gentlemen, that is the green flag, red flag segment of the night. As we will go on to next week's race at Daytona.
All I can tell you is expect chaos, because I am telling you, even the guys that are in the playoffs, they're going to want that 5 points or whatever it is for a win going in. The aggressive meter is going to just explode, okay? I thought we saw it pegged as high as it would go at Michigan. I'm telling you, the aggressive meter is going to just explode, and I don't think it's just going to be the guys trying to race their way in. I think some of these guys that want that extra 5 points are going to dial it up too. So I am just expecting chaos. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah, I think it is probably going to be one of the chaotic races, one of the chaotic races that we've seen at Daytona in a long while. I think there's a lot of drivers who have nothing to lose that are already locked in the playoffs, and I think there's a lot of drivers that have absolutely nothing to lose out of the playoffs. And so I think that's going to make for an amazing combination. And yeah, I think there were going to be at least 2 big wrecks. And we might see a winner still have damage. I think that is more likely to happen than not, for sure.
Oh yeah. I mean, Daytona is just going to be a survival of the most fortunate. I mean, you already have about not just 3 guys, in Reddick and Dillon and Benedetto trying to get in, but you still have every driver above top 30 in points trying to win and race their way in. And so there's going to be, more drivers looking to get in than there are drivers trying to stay alive and at least keep their cars and steering wheels at the end of the race. And so definitely there's going to be some guys making some desperate moves, probably way too early and probably way too late to try and get in. And so there's going to be wrecks there. Yep. So yeah, there's going to be wrecks.
All right, we are up to our white flag comments, and I know we got to wrap it up. I know you guys have places to be, but what do you guys have to say on your white flag comments?
Aaron, you go ahead first.
Really nothing for me. I'm looking forward to get college football back and rolling again in a few weeks, and so we're looking forward to that.
Yeah, one thing I will say is Cadillac is expected to join WEC for 2023. They're going to create a hypercar. So that's going to be like the 24 hours of Le Mans, 6 hours of Sebring, that kind of thing. So we're going to see Cadillac. I think they said, sorry, give you 2 seconds. Chip Ganassi Racing is going to be running that Cadillac, and Action Express, who both compete in the IMSA series. They're going to be starting a WEC team. So it's not something that we've really seen American teams go into WEC before. Obviously a chance for for those drivers to get a Le Mans 24-hour win. So I think that's going to be exciting and amazing to hear.
All right. I'm going to wrap it up here with my final comment. We get a comment from Stevie Throop. Ricky Stenhouse is going to win at Daytona. At this point, that would not surprise me.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, not surprise me.
Okay. My white flag comment is going to be, I'm going to be critical of the broadcasting again. Okay. I hate the fact that everything from NBC is so, for lack of a better word, politically correct, and nothing is anybody's fault. Perfect example, the Austin Dillon and Brad Keselowski incident. We could all see, all of us agreed, all of us here agreed. He came clear down onto the apron. He got Austin Dillon and turned him. They even played his radio back, and he says, oh man, he didn't want to do that. It was clearly his fault, okay? What do they say on NBC? Oh, that's just two guys racing. Oh, that's just two guys going for the same real estate. No, when something is somebody's fault, call them out for it. Stop doing this. Oh, that's just racing. Oh, that's just two guys getting in each. No, it's not. It's somebody's fault. Sometimes it could be one or the other, and it's a little of both. Most of the time, one guy messed up. Call him out for messing up and stop being so politically correct. We've all got eyes. We can see what's happening. We're not buying your politically correct spiel. So call it as it's happening and not stop trying to be friends with everybody. So there,
100%.
Rant over.
Preach it, brother.
100%.
All right.
All
Thank
right.
you guys for tuning in. Appreciate it. I know you guys have places to be, so I'm going to say sayonara, and we are going to sign off here.
Thank you guys for joining us. See you next week.
Normal episode next week. Come be here. Check it out.
9 o'clock.